Reading technical charts, that's really only half the battle. The other half, and honestly, the much more difficult half, is what goes on entirely inside your own head. Today, we're unpacking a brilliant psychological breakdown based on a mime animation action script called Failure to Take Responsibility. He uses these really powerful physical mime movements to capture the destructive cycle that so many retail traders fall into. We're going to trace the exact journey of a trader, moving from the depths of denial and frantic behavior all the way up to the heights of disciplined consistency.
So why do most traders lose? It's the ultimate million-dollar question, right? You can have the best indicators in the world, a completely pristine technical setup, and yet the failure rate for retail traders is notoriously brutal. But the answer to this question actually isn't about having bad strategies. It's about what happens in the critical moments right after a loss. How you physically and emotionally respond to a red screen dictates absolutely everything about your future in the markets.
The harsh reality is that a failure to take responsibility is the silent killer of trading accounts. It's not the market taking your money. It's the refusal to accept that you made a mistake. The source material maps this out so vividly using a mime's performance. When the trader takes a hit, their initial physical reaction isn't to stop, step back, and take a breath. No, the immediate knee-jerk instinct is self-preservation through pure denial. Let's look at exactly how this defense mechanism plays out.
Part 1. The blame game. Pointing fingers at everyone else.
The very first excuse we see acted out is the absolute classic. The market is manipulated. It's incredibly common. Whenever a setup completely fails, the absolute easiest way to soothe a bruised ego is to imagine this shadowy cabal of institutional algorithms working specifically to ruin your Tuesday afternoon. It's a textbook psychological defense mechanism designed for one thing: avoiding the reality of a personal mistake. Then, the trader pivots and blames the signal provider. The signal provider failed me. This happens a lot when a trader outsources their own decision-making process to someone else, like a guru, a Discord group, or an automated alert. And because they outsource the decision, they feel completely justified in outsourcing the blame. The logic is, well, if it wasn't my idea, it definitely isn't my fault. And finally, they accuse the broker. The broker hunted my stop loss. That completes the trifecta of externalizing failure. The trader becomes utterly convinced that the platform itself somehow widened the spread or actively targeted their exact price level just to shake them out of the trade. In their mind, they are the victim of a grand conspiracy rather than a participant who maybe just mismanaged risk or misread the price action. Which brings us to the core thesis of all this. Most losing traders blame everyone except themselves. The physical act of pointing fingers in every direction perfectly illustrates an undeniable reality. Deflecting fault is a highly destructive habit because it literally seals you off from the reality of the market. Think about it. If you are always the flawless victim of circumstance, you never actually have to change your behavior. Part 2. The trap of randomness. Trading without a net. Because the trader hasn't processed their loss objectively, all that blame directly triggers erratic behavior. You see this play out physically as they grab their phone and start taking frantic random positions. Tap buy, tap sell, tap buy again. It's pure button mashing. All discipline is out the window, replaced by pure emotional reaction. There's zero strategy here. It's just a desperate physical attempt to force the market to give back what was lost. And predictably, this frantic, unguided action leads straight into yet another loss. The screen flashes red again. When you trade out of anger and randomness, the market is completely unforgiving. The hole the trader is digging, it just gets much, much deeper. But the psychology behind this chaotic button mashing is truly fascinating. Chaos is actually a shield against having to admit you were wrong. The narrator makes such a profound point here. If you throw a dart at a board while blindfolded and miss, you can just shrug it off, right? Random trading avoids accountability because you aren't actually testing a specific hypothesis. You're just gambling. And if you gamble and lose, well, that's just bad luck. But if you meticulously plan a trade and it fails, you have to admit your analysis was flawed. So traders unconsciously choose randomness to protect their egos. As our source brilliantly states, if there's no plan, there's nothing to learn from. This is the ultimate devastating cost of the trap of randomness. Without a baseline strategy, without a clear set of rules you are intentionally trying to follow, it is literally impossible to extract any educational value from a market defeat. You can't fix a broken engine if you don't even know how the parts were supposed to fit together in the first place. And that brings us to the massive pivot point of this explainer, contrasting the victim mentality with the professional mindset. On one hand, we have that chaotic, frantic, finger-pointing energy that completely destroys accounts. On the other hand, notice the shift to a calm, breathing posture. Successful traders accept full responsibility. This is the bridge between failure and success, and crossing it requires a complete psychological rewrite. Part 3. The shift to discipline. The transformation. Instead of mashing buttons, the transformed trader takes 4 very deliberate physical actions to ensure total control over their process. First, they open a trading journal. Second, they actively review their past mistakes without flinching. Third, they commit to following a strict trading plan for their next move. And fourth, they meticulously control their risk parameters. They aren't trying to predict what the market will do. They are managing their own behavior. By executing those exact steps, the trader embodies a vital principle. Successful traders accept full responsibility for every single trade.
They fundamentally understand that owning the loss is the absolute only way to own the eventual win. If you can accept that your entry was poor, or maybe your position size was too large, you suddenly regain the power to correct those exact variables for tomorrow's session.
Part 4, the chain of consistency, how discipline creates results.
Look, this isn't magic. It is a step-by-step sequential process. Step 1 is responsibility. Taking absolute ownership allows you to move to step 2, which is learning. Because you own the mistake, you can actually study it. Studying those mistakes forms good habits, which brings us to step 3, discipline. You now have the physical rules in place to protect yourself. And finally, executing that discipline over a large sample size of trades yields step 4, consistency.
The narrator summarizes this chain reaction perfectly. Responsibility creates learning. Learning creates discipline. Discipline creates results. It's a beautiful logical progression. You simply cannot leapfrog straight to the results part without passing through responsibility first. It really highlights that long-term financial success in the markets is just the natural byproduct of your own psychological maturity. At the very end of our source material, this incredible message burns onto the screen. It's attributed to Ethiopian trader with a focus on price action, psychology, and discipline. Your account grows when your excuses stop. I am going to leave you with that powerful final thought as we wrap up this explainer. At the end of the day, it all comes down to radical accountability. So taking a hard look at your own habits right now, are you ready to drop the excuses and finally take complete control of your trading journey?